All right, so this is a one bedroom, one bath dwelling in addition to the house that's conjoined on the other side of this wall. It has its own kitchen, bedroom, living room. The main part of the house at the moment is a two bedroom, two bath. This addition was never completed, it looks like. Right now, it's being used as a spot where I can put some storage and equipment for now, but all this stuff's going to be cleared out. And I guess my proposal is that I might be able to use this space as a dedicated commercial kitchen sort of scenario, where I can get equipment for food dehydrators, freeze drying, different cooking means for the business. At the moment, I'm using a CFO approach with a cottage food license, and that has been working okay on a small scale. But the reality is, I really need a dedicated working space to produce a lot more, and room for, a lot more equipment. This is what I'm proposing, and it would be more affordable than renting a facility. It would be more affordable than buying another facility. This property was purchased with no money owed on it, and it's on 13 acres. This property runs on 320 amps that are dedicated for it, which the average house is running on anywhere from 100 to 200 amps. So we have more than enough electricity to do what we want to do here. So I would say that this is the most affordable option to convert this. I'm also going to use this video as a bit of a resume to show what I'm capable of doing, which shows that a lot can be done on a budget with me involved. Essentially, I do have a variety of capabilities when it comes to repairing places in an affordable way. So I'll show you what I did so far to this property. It's only been purchased for a couple months. So there was no utilities running on this property. It was completely dilapidated. It was used for indoor growing for an old cannabis grow, and it wasn't livable. No electricity, no water access. The plumbing wasn't working. Real poor shape. So this part of the house essentially hasn't been worked on yet, but I do have 60 amps that I set up running through to the master bedroom, which I do have set up for someone to live on. So let's go and see what is set up. Took me about a month to make all the repairs. As you can see, it's a very beautiful property. It's 13 acres, and honestly, this whole section is a very small portion of it. So my dad wanted to stay here, visit his grandkids once in a while. This room used to be just as bad as what I showed you prior. It's all fixed up. Okay. Electricity back and working. Okay. So now there's a habitable space here. Got a kitchenette area for all the cooking needs, entertainment. This was a walk-in closet, and now it's a bathroom. Okay. Everything's functioning. All right. Toilet flushes. Obviously, there was a lot into setting this area up to make it functional. It's not a simple process. So as I mentioned, this was a walk-in closet, and now it's a functioning bathroom. Okay? Get your privacy, all that. I have all the amperage calculated out. There's 60 amps. The amperage for the fridge runs on the same circuit as the pump below the house. So that's the only thing on that 20 amp that shares it with the pump, because the ratios are such that there's enough electricity on that circuit. So this wall is 20 amps and the entertainment wall is 20 amps. Okay, so it's like a little studio. It's got, what you need for an extended stay. And you got that view right off the deck. Okay. I'll go into detail of what I actually set up to make this space functional and bring the utilities back. But all in all, about $50,000 worth of work was probably done here, but I did it in $2,400 worth of material cost. And I'll show you what I had set up. All right, so I'll show you what I did under here. Installed this piping section that branches off from here. Installed all that. And that bypasses the rest of the house. Got the pressurized line coming up through there, which pressurizes the water for the toilet and the sink. This 20 amp outlet shares with the fridge and goes to the pump. That pumps the water from the spring well and pressurizes the lines into the house. Right here is a junction box, and it splits one of the 20 amp circuits, the one that it shares with the entertainment center, with the garage. It goes to the garage so that I can use power tools in there. So these are 3 20 amp lines. This one controls the pump and the fridge, and then these control the majority of the room and the garage. I installed these switches to act as a shut-off system without someone having to go into the breaker box. So it's just a bit of a safety thing, whereas if the system needs to be shut off to the room, then they don't have to go into the breaker box and potentially expose themselves to harm. This is the garage. This as well didn't have electricity set up. Obviously, it's a bit of a mess. I've been working on things. Set up this, which was originally a sub panel, and it's been repurposed as a junction box, a large junction box. It didn't have the cover, so obviously I made a cover, but we got a plug right here for me to use equipment. So this valve controls the line that's going from the spring well over there to the house. Continues on. So the spring water well source is gravity fed up to this point, but that's not enough to provide water pressure. So the water comes in through here. There's a valve in case I need to shut it off in a pinch. It gets filtered right here to remove the sediment before going into the pump, because you don't want sediment running into the pump and messing that up, or sediment in your lines, in your sink, in your toilet, obviously. Okay. In between the sediment filter and the pump, there's a switch valve. The switch valve allows water to only flow one way, but not back the other. So the water pressure is held from this point to the lines in the house. So all that pressure held from here onwards. Down here is a pressure tank, which allows the water pressure to be held in a larger quantity, which allows for the pump to not switch on as frequently. So that extends the life of the pump. Right here is a pressure gauge. So that's the pressure that it's sitting at, and that's adjustable. And when you use the water in the lines going from this section, that pressure gauge starts going down because that water is being depleted. And then when it reaches a point and the needle goes about right here, then the pump will switch on automatically and repressurize the lines to right there. So this is the old system. That was the pump right there. Pressure gauge, sediment filter. And what I put together replaces this old, completely dilapidated and unusable system, which is hardly recognizable. I had to find the location of the septic tank. These are the manholes for the septic tank. This first section has a riser on it. This section doesn't. You can see the handle right there. I didn't know where the location was, but based on the angle of the pipe and where it came out of the house, I deduced that it was pretty close by. So what's the point of me demonstrating this in this video is really just the fact that I can do a variety of things when it comes to repairs and setups, and that allows me to get things done on a budget. So I don't rely upon anyone else but myself to do these things. It took me about a month of work on my own, around $2,400 in material cost. If I paid a contractor to do it, I would estimate it would be about 50 grand worth of work. And a lot of that time that I spent doing this stuff was troubleshooting and planning and finding out what was available, because there was no blueprint on what to do, where things were, where the spring well was, where the septic tank was, anything like that. So it's troubleshooting, it's doing it on my own, it's setting it up. When you're working with limited resource, like limited finance, for example, which is just another resource, you need to be careful how you spend it to get things done, and doing things yourself really helps with that. So waste not, want not. I think being able to do production here would be a real advantage in terms of overhead cost and affordability versus renting a production facility or buying another production facility, since this is already purchased. If there's a lot of farm work being done here, it would be a big advantage to have production being done here as well. I'm about to weed whack right here so that I can plant a line of my plants along this walkway right here. So I'll show you what I've done in just a couple hours of work. Now normally these would be planted more spaced apart. They were originally planted very spaced apart, but because they are replants, meaning they already rooted and I took them out from the other farm, I'm putting them closer together so I can assure success rate, because these are all going to be one large plant that's really high going along this whole section, and whatever pads grow from the first year, I'll take off the new pads to plant more sections. And there's a lot more than, you know, where this came from, but this assures that, you know, there's nothing really being wasted here. So here's an example of, you know, new growth that you cut off and replant. And yeah, how you plant these kind of depends on the type of climate that you're in. So on a slope like this, in this type of climate, just clearing the ground with a weed whacker and plopping them on top of the soil, that's the way to do it, because it gets moist here and you don't want the part of the plant containing a lot of water, you know, because most plants are 80% water, in the ground in that moisture, because that causes a higher percentage of rot in terms of the quantity that you plant. So as you can see, very easy, no tilling, not using fertilizer. Was able to do this within a little bit of time. Once again, this will all look like one giant hedge, essentially, all these plants fused together. I'll show you how this really happens for the plant. Okay, so these little dots on the plant, those are called areoles, and that's where the new pads, the fruit, and the roots come out of those areoles. Okay, so when they're laying on the ground, you want them touching exposed soil, and it's going to detect where the light's coming off and where the moisture is from the ground, and it's going to start spitting out roots from these little dots right here. And then on the other side, it'll start spitting out pads and then fruit, and it'll start growing. Okay, pretty straightforward. They're amazing plants. So there you go. That's all there is to it right here. Typically, you space them about 3 to 4 feet apart, sometimes 5 feet apart, because you're expecting them to turn into, you know, fully grown plants. These are going to be essentially a hedge, and I'll reuse those new pads that come out after the first year. So I don't think it would take too long to convert this area into production space. Work in progress, as you can see. Patched up all these holes in the wall Just has to be repainted.